What if the wounds you can't see are the ones that shape your destiny? We live in a world that often praises strength, resilience, and self-reliance. But what happens when the soul is weary and the pain we carry is too heavy to name? Trauma isn't always physical. In fact, some of the most devastating wounds are the invisible ones, the ones etched into our minds, our spirits, and our very sense of self. Trauma, in its simplest definition, is what happens when we are overwhelmed, when life delivers more than we can emotionally process. But behind the science lies something deeper, a spiritual fracture, a separation from wholeness, from safety, from the divine. This video is a journey into the spiritual psychology of trauma. It's for the silent sufferers, the ones who smile through pain, the ones who feel broken and long for healing. It's for the seekers, the ones who know that true recovery isn't just about therapy sessions or medications, but about remembering who we are beneath the wounds. You are not alone, and you are not beyond healing. So let's begin. Trauma comes in many forms. It can be a single catastrophic event, a car accident, a violent incident, the sudden loss of a loved one. Or it can be subtle and insidious, years of emotional neglect, chronic invalidation, or living in an environment of constant stress. Psychologically, trauma disrupts the nervous system. Our bodies are hardwired to survive, and when faced with danger, the brain activates the fight, flight, or freeze response. But when the danger is ongoing or too intense, this survival system gets stuck. We begin to live in a perpetual state of alert. The trauma is no longer just something that happened to us. It becomes part of how we see the world, how we relate to others, and how we understand ourselves. Complex trauma, often rooted in childhood, can affect our sense of worth, our ability to trust, and even our capacity to feel joy. It's not just about what happened, it's about what didn't happen. The love we didn't receive, the safety we never felt, the validation that never came. Trauma isn't weakness, it's a natural response to unnatural experiences. But healing requires that we acknowledge these wounds, that we stop minimizing them, and that we begin to see them not as our identity, but as our invitation to grow, to transform, and to reconnect. While psychology speaks of trauma in terms of brain chemistry and emotional responses, there's a deeper wound beneath it all. A wound of the spirit. When trauma happens, especially early in life, it disrupts our sense of connection to ourselves, to others, and to the divine. We may feel abandoned not just by people, but by God, by life itself. The world begins to feel unsafe. Love feels conditional, and we begin to believe that we are unworthy of peace. Spiritually, trauma fractures the soul. We start to live in fragments. The inner child, the part of us that is pure, vulnerable, and trusting, goes into hiding. We build walls around our hearts. We develop survival roles, the hero, the caretaker, the loner. These roles help us survive, but they also keep us from being seen, known, and loved. Carl Jung called this the shadow self, the hidden parts of us we reject or deny. Trauma feeds the shadow not because we are bad, but because we are scared. We bury our pain deep inside, hoping that if we ignore it long enough, it will disappear. But the soul doesn't forget. The soul waits. And eventually, the pain begins to leak out in relationships, in addictions, in moments of despair. Spiritual trauma isn't always about religion. It's about disconnection from our essence, from our purpose, from the sacred. Whether we call it God, the universe, or spirit, healing begins when we dare to reconnect. The journey of healing is the journey back to our wholeness, and that is a deeply spiritual act. In the face of unbearable pain, we adapt. We find ways to cope, to survive, to keep going. But not all coping mechanisms serve our healing. Some keep us trapped in cycles of suffering. Addiction is one of the most common responses to trauma. Not just addiction to substances, but to work, to achievement, to relationships, even to spiritual practices. Anything that helps us numb the pain can become a crutch. We become perfectionists, trying to earn worth through doing. We become people pleasers, hoping that if we keep others happy, we'll finally be safe. Or we become avoidant, pushing people away before they can hurt us. These patterns are not flaws. They are survival strategies. They were born out of necessity, but they are not meant to be permanent. The spiritual lesson in trauma is that the pain we try to escape is often the very doorway to our awakening. The same patterns that once protected us now ask to be examined, understood, and released. Why do I keep attracting the same kind of pain? Is not just a psychological question, it's a spiritual one. Life, in its mysterious wisdom, brings us repeated opportunities to heal what we've buried. But to heal, we must stop running. We must sit with the pain. We must listen. And in that sacred stillness, something begins to shift. Healing doesn't happen on the surface. It happens in the quiet corners of the soul, in the spaces we've long ignored. Often, it begins with a breaking, a moment when we realize we can't keep going the way we have. This breaking can feel like the end, but it is also the beginning. In spiritual traditions, this is known as the dark night of the soul, a season of deep inner turmoil where everything familiar falls away. We may feel lost, abandoned, even cursed. But this darkness is sacred. It is not punishment, it is purification. The dark night strips away illusions. It forces us to confront our shadows. It teaches us to stop looking outside for salvation and to turn inward. Meditation, prayer, solitude, these become lifelines, not as escape, but as communion. In the silence, we begin to hear the whispers of the soul. We begin to remember who we are beneath the pain. The journey inward is not linear. There will be setbacks. There will be days of despair. But each step into the darkness brings us closer to the light. Spiritual healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. And that remembrance is the beginning of freedom. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood aspects of healing. It's often confused with excusing, forgetting, or condoning what happened. But true forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. Forgiveness is the conscious decision to release the grip that pain has on your spirit. It doesn't mean the wound didn't matter. It means you're choosing not to let it define you anymore. Many trauma survivors carry immense guilt, not just for what happened to them, but for how they responded. They carry shame, self-blame, and a deep sense of unworthiness. This is where grace enters. Grace says, "You are not your wounds. You are not your worst moment. You are not the trauma you endured." Grace is the voice of the divine saying, "I see you. I love you. Come home." Forgiveness of self is perhaps the hardest, and yet the most necessary. It allows you to re-enter your own heart. It invites you to treat yourself with compassion instead of criticism. When we forgive, we don't erase the past. We transform our relationship to it. We no longer live as prisoners of pain. We become stewards of wisdom. And in that shift, we find peace. Healing is not about getting back to who you were before the trauma. It's about becoming someone new, someone wiser, deeper, more whole. Integration is the process of bringing all parts of ourselves, light and shadow, pain and joy, into one cohesive soul. It's the reunion of our fragmented self. Here are several powerful ways to support trauma integration: somatic therapy and body awareness. Trauma is stored not only in the mind, but in the body. Somatic practices help release this tension. Breathwork, yoga, and body scans reconnect us with physical sensations, restoring a sense of safety. Creative expression, art, music, writing, and movement allow us to give voice to the unspoken. When words fail, Creativity becomes a sacred channel for healing. Expressive arts can unlock emotions buried for years. Inner child work. Reconnecting with the younger parts of ourselves fosters compassion and repair. Visualization, dialogue journaling, or even holding a childhood photo can bridge the gap between past and present, helping us reparent and nurture the wounded self. Spiritual practice and sacred rituals. Daily practices like prayer, lighting candles, chanting, or walking in nature ground our spirits. Rituals create meaning and foster connection to the divine, reminding us that we are not alone. Safe relationships and community. Healing happens in relationship. Whether through therapy, support groups, or trusted spiritual guides, having spaces where we are truly seen and heard is vital. Narrative reshaping. Telling your story from a place of empowerment rather than victimhood transforms how it lives inside you. Trauma doesn't disappear, but when it's honored and integrated, it becomes wisdom, grounding, and nervous system. Regulation. Practices like cold exposure, grounding in nature, singing, or using weighted blankets can help rewire the body's stress responses. Shadow work and acceptance. Instead of rejecting the parts of us shaped by pain, we begin to accept them. Journaling, dream analysis, and working with archetypes can illuminate the unconscious and bring it to light. Daily mindfulness and self-compassion. Trauma recovery is a lifelong journey. Practicing presence, breath by breath, and offering yourself gentle grace each day allows transformation to unfold naturally. Post-traumatic growth is real. Many people emerge from the depths of suffering with a new sense of purpose. They become healers, artists, teachers, and leaders. Their pain becomes their power. You are not broken. You are being reborn, and the life ahead of you is still full of possibility. The subconscious mind holds the stories we are too afraid to tell ourselves, and nowhere does it speak more loudly than in our dreams. Dreams are not random, they are the soul's language. Every symbol, every sensation, every surreal moment is the psyche trying to bring unconscious wounds into conscious awareness. Especially for trauma survivors, dreams can be portals to the deepest aspects of the self. Recurring dreams or nightmares are often indicators of unresolved trauma. They may replay the event directly or reflect it symbolically, being chased, drowning, being lost, trapped, or voiceless. These are all metaphors for internal experiences we haven't fully processed. But dreams aren't just reminders of pain. They are also messages of hope. In many spiritual traditions, dreams are sacred communications from the divine, the ancestors, or the higher self. Lucid dreaming and dream journaling can help deepen your relationship with your subconscious. When you record your dreams, patterns begin to emerge. The monsters you fear may become guides. The shadow may reveal its wisdom. Approach your dreams with reverence. Before sleep, set an intention. Show me what I need to heal. When you wake, record what you remember. Over time, you will begin to decode your soul's messages. Trauma often splits the conscious and unconscious mind. Dreams bridge that gap. They whisper truths we're not yet ready to speak aloud. And they remind us that even in the darkest corners of our psyche, the light is always present. You may be carrying pain that isn't yours. Science now confirms what ancient cultures have long known. Trauma can be inherited. Epigenetics shows us that unresolved trauma in one generation can alter the genetic expression in the next. But more than biology, there is a spiritual inheritance at play. Your ancestors lived through wars, oppression, displacement, heartbreak, and silence. Their unresolved grief, rage, and fear can echo through your nervous system, your patterns, even your dreams. Sometimes the pain you feel has no name because it didn't start with you. This is not a burden. It's a sacred invitation. You are the one they prayed for. You are the healing lineage breaker. Ancestral trauma often shows up as recurring family issues, addiction, abandonment, abuse, shame. To heal it, we must first acknowledge it. Learn your family history. Speak with elders. Listen to the stories that were whispered or never told. Ritual is a powerful tool here. Lighting candles for your ancestors, creating an altar, praying for those who came before you. Even writing letters to the unresolved pain in your lineage and offering it to the fire can bring release. Some traumas must be mourned by those who were never there. By grieving on behalf of your lineage, you free yourself and them. You are not just healing for yourself, you are healing 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. That is the power of one awakened soul. There comes a point in every healing journey where the wound transforms. It stops being a source of shame and becomes a wellspring of wisdom. This is the final stage of trauma integration, becoming the healer. Not everyone will become a therapist or a spiritual teacher, but everyone has the potential to be a healing presence. When you've walked through the fire of trauma and emerged with insight, you carry something sacred, a frequency, a medicine, a light. Your story becomes a map for others. Your voice becomes a lighthouse. You no longer hide your scars, you bless them. You may feel a calling to help others, to write, to speak, to create. That call is real, and it's not rooted in ego. It's your soul remembering its mission. But becoming the healer doesn't mean you're done healing. It means you've learned to walk with your pain rather than run from it. You've become a witness, a holder of space, a midwife of transformation. Service becomes sacred. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every time you hold space for someone else's pain, you are channeling divine healing. There is no higher purpose than to help others rise, and your pain, once unbearable, is now your initiation. Let it guide you, let it shape you, let it bless the world through you. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not minimizing. It is not saying, it's okay. Forgiveness is freedom. When we carry trauma, especially trauma inflicted by others, we often carry the energy of the person who hurt us. Their actions become woven into our nervous system, our memory, our identity. We replay the wound over and over, trying to find justice, closure, or understanding. But there comes a moment in healing when we are called to choose liberation over retribution. Forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. It doesn't mean what happened was right. It means you are choosing to release the poison from your own body. As the Buddha said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. In spiritual psychology, forgiveness is a sacred act. It is the soul saying, I will no longer be defined by what was done to me. I choose love. Forgiveness doesn't always happen at once. Sometimes it comes in layers. Sometimes it comes with grief, rage, or sorrow. Sometimes it begins with the simple prayer, help me be willing to forgive. Forgiveness is also about self-forgiveness, for the ways we coped, for the things we didn't know, for the shame we carried, for the survival strategies we needed to use. When we forgive ourselves, we stop waging war with the past. We reclaim our power. Let this be your mantra. I forgive not to erase the past, but to create a future no longer ruled by it. There comes a time when the story shifts. You no longer introduce yourself by your pain. You no longer define yourself by what broke you. You live from the wholeness you've discovered in the aftermath. This is the sacred moment when trauma no longer holds the pen. You do. Embodying wholeness means that healing has moved from an idea into your body. You walk differently, breathe differently, relate differently. There is a grounded presence in you now, a sense of self rooted not in trauma, but in truth. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means integration. It means your inner child, your shadow, your higher self, and your humanity are all sitting at the same table. You are no longer fractured. You are no longer hiding parts of yourself to be loved. You love all of you. This embodiment is spiritual. Your nervous system becomes a sacred vessel. Your choices become prayers. Your life becomes a testament to grace. Practice stillness. Return to the body. Use movement, breath, and ritual to anchor this truth. You are already whole. You always were. The trauma didn't destroy you. It revealed you. Now, you get to live from that truth. Beneath every trauma is a spiritual wound, a moment when we felt abandoned by love, by God, by life itself. And beneath every healing is a return to that love. Spiritual psychology reminds us that the deepest healing is not just psychological, it is divine. It's not just about restoring the mind, it's about remembering the soul. Communion with the divine is the sacred reunion between your wounded humanity and your eternal spirit. It is the moment when, in silence or tears, in nature or prayer, you feel something greater wrap its arms around you and say, "You are not alone." Whether you call it God, Source, the universe, Spirit, or the Divine Mother, this force is real. It moves through love, through intuition, through awe, through surrender. When we've been traumatized, we often build walls, not just around our hearts, but around our faith. Where was God? We ask. The truth is often painful, but also beautiful. God was never gone, but in our pain, we turned away. And now we are being called back. Spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, stillness, devotion, become lifelines. They open the portal to communion. They remind us that healing isn't just an act of self-effort, it is an act of divine grace. In communion, we lay down our burdens. We stop carrying what was never ours to hold. We give it to the altar of the divine, and we listen. We listen not just with our ears, but with our hearts. The soul doesn't heal through logic. It heals through presence, through love, through divine intimacy. Let this final truth settle in your bones. You are never alone. You are infinitely loved, and you are always being guided home. Now take a breath. You are not just surviving. You are rising. You are remembering who you truly are. And every scar on your spirit is becoming a doorway to something sacred. This is the essence of healing. This is the spark of transformation. And here at Zest Catalyst, we believe in that fire within you. The fire that refuses to be extinguished. The fire that turns trauma into truth, pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom. So if this resonated with your soul, stay connected. This is just the beginning of a deeper conversation. Subscribe. Share this with someone whose heart needs it. And remember, healing isn't a luxury, it's your divine birthright. You are not alone. You never were.